Chapter 18. I looked at the councilman's offered hand. He had a gold ring on the pinky with a sizable black gem inset. My eyebrows went up, and I grunted, declining to take his hand. Fuck you, asshole. I'm not a dog, and I don't shake for treats. Councilman White retracted his hand, and I sensed equal amounts of embarrassment and awkwardness travel down the piano wire. But before I could even begin to enjoy making him uncomfortable, the councilman squashed his feelings like an emotional sumo wrestler. Ah, yes, there was that fuck you confidence again. He rubbed his chin as he looked me over, no doubt taking in the cuts and bruises that, unseen to him, were already starting to heal. Call it a very fringe benefit to whatever it was that made the empathy super. The councilman wagged a finger at me. There's something very familiar about you. Did you volunteer on my campaign last year? The poll didn't really tell me if he believed that or not, and all I was getting from him was that smarmy fuck you confidence cranked up to 11. I freelance for Jacoby, I lied, borrowing Valdez's background. You might have seen me at an event or two. White nodded slowly, glancing from me to the open first aid kit on the table. Freelancing tends to get a little rough, doesn't? I sat back down, casually crossing my legs. I walked into a door. White pulled out a chair opposite me and sat, smiling that shit-eating smile that politicians wear so effortlessly. And did the door punch back, or maybe a wall decided to get in on the action? A strange look crossed his face as he studied me. I felt the poll tell me the councilman was almost confused. You really are familiar, he said. I lifted a shoulder indifferently. Just have one of those faces, I guess. That door's like to hit, White quipped. I grunted, bugging my eyes and glancing away. Nothing worse than a politician who thinks he's funny. White held up his palms. All right, I get it. Usually I have my wife polish up the jokes, but as you can see, I'm flying solo today. That confused thoughtfulness came back. White glanced at the wall-mounted televisions displaying the shot of the streaming studio, and then back at me. He pointed a finger in my direction. You're not here for the interview, are you? What fucking interview? I kept my voice flat, not inclined to give him an inch. Nope. I could practically hear the gears grind as his wheels turned. The pull wasn't very helpful because that fuck you confidence was overpowering all of his other emotions. Still, fine. This was one of those rare scenarios when mainlining someone else's emotions wasn't debilitating. The councilman's fuck you confidence was downright invigorating. I could take this fucker all day long. So what are you working on? White asked. The words came out of my mouth before I knew what to say. The rally. I'm shooting photos for Jacoby. White glanced across the table. There was still just the first aid kit and my jacket over one of the chairs. No camera? White pressed, pointing out the obvious. That's what I'm waiting to get from Jacoby, I lied with surprising ease. The words were just there. Company gig, company equipment. It's a liability thing. Ah, he said. You know, I'm actually here doing this interview because of the rally. I guess you and I crossing paths is a little bit of cosmic kismet, if you will. I really fucking hated this guy. He smacked his lips and leaned forward. You know, let me ask you a question. I mean, you're a big guy. Tough, obviously, ask any door. I'm pretty sure he didn't hear the growl that started somewhere in the back of my throat. Probably. But be honest, White continued, almost conspiratorially. Do you think this rally is a good idea? I mean, you're going there just to take photos, I know, but you'll be there, in the middle of it. And who knows what these people are capable of, what they're even planning on doing. You seem worried. He didn't feel worried. Still just that loud, annoying confidence, but I could play along if that's what he wanted. White was mulling something over, tapping the tabletop with a finger. It almost looked like a nervous tick. Honestly, I am. This isn't something that should be happening in our city. Right to assemble, freedom of speech, all that aside, this just isn't right. And those who remain silent might just as well be condoning it. I let his words hang in the air. This was getting surreal. It was only a few hours ago that I saw this asshole in cahoots with a dirty cop who had just tried to frame me for a hate-based murder. And now the honorable councilman was trying out PR lines on me, condemning the actions of the people he was allegedly colluding with. And still, the piano wire sang loudly with that "fuck you" confidence. When it became clear that I had no intention of responding, White met my eyes with a cold gaze and said, "What about you, Mr. Door-busting photo freelancer? Do you condone the Sons of the Golden Future?" "I'm no fan of Nazis," I replied, eyes going wide again. "Never have been, never will be." White spread his hands over the table. "Well, there you go. Plainly spoken, clear as day. Except," his head canted sideways, "and I say this only for journalistic clarity, but the Sons of the Golden Future, they're not Nazis, you know." The "fuck you" confidence wavered, and I detected a note of annoyance, frustration, some kind of pet peeve. "Ah, fuck you very much, Mr. Councilman, sir." I spoke slowly and intentionally. "If it looks like a Nazi, and it sounds like a Nazi." He waved that infuriating finger at me, and I resisted a very strong, compelling urge to snap it in two. "See, that's exactly why I have to do this interview. This misconception, this misunderstanding. People, broadly speaking, don't understand the movement." "And you just want to clear the air?" White sucked a whistling breath through his nose, and I felt the politician's confidence ramp back up, quickly eclipsing a note of disappointment. "Justice demands clarity. Clarity requires action. The Sons of the Golden Future represents that which will not be tolerated in the city of Saint Charles." I nodded slowly. I think I looked agreeable, or at least, I hoped I did. Then I smiled something lopsided and stupid at the councilman. "Oh, that's good. You should definitely use that line." The door on the far side of the room opened, and Will Jacoby in his brown dress vest leaned through. "Councilman White, if you're ready, I can take you to the studio now." White stood and started to offer me his hand before thinking better of it. He nodded at me. "Good chatting with you, then." "Break a leg," I said flatly, watching as the councilman disappeared through the door. Looking over at the televisions, I saw Jacoby and White enter the frame before sitting across from each other. Jacoby fussed with a lapel microphone, while that girl from earlier stepped into the shot and helped the councilman with his mic. "Are you seeing this shit?" Valdes asked as she re-entered the break room. She walked right up to the television and raised the volume. "Keep it conversational. I have questions, but if the conversation takes us in another direction..." "And this is live, or will it be edited?" the councilman interjected. "Janie's behind the board mixing the shots live, but we're recording to tape, as it were," Jacoby explained. "I might do some light editing just to clip out any extraneous bits, but it should be online within the hour." Valdes scowled and muted the television. She stepped back and crossed her arms. "I can't believe he's actually interviewing that lying sack of horseshit. It's like, what does Will even think he's gonna get from a psycho-fuck Nazi-loving racist politician?" She glanced over at me. "Did you know it was the ass-turd himself who came to Will for an interview? Fucking White said he wanted to give the Sentinel a one-on-one exclusive about the rally. Go fucking figure." I thought of White's compulsion to correct me about labeling the Sons of the Golden Future as Nazis. If the councilman is digging himself a hole, maybe Jacoby just wants to lend him a bigger shovel. "Did he come through here? White, did you get anything off him?" I shrugged. He's hiding something, but that's no mystery. He's oozing confidence about whatever it is he's doing. Also no mystery, Valdes said, her lip curling in disgust. What did Jacoby say about the photos? Gah! Valdes ran her fingers through her hair and plopped down into a chair. Journalistic standards can be a real fucking pisser, you know? I laid out the facts of the John Doe in the morgue, the footage of Stu Sampson trying to fuck you up, and the knife he tried to plant, and then the photos of Councilman White leaving a meeting with SCPD's finest, including everyone's favorite fucking officer, and Will is being a giant fucking pussy about shoving it in White's face. Valdes gestured sharply at the muted television. I mean, he's right fucking there! Valdes crossed her arms again and fumed. I stood, went to the television, and turned the volume back up as Councilman White spoke. You should know that, while yes, I was instrumental in the formation of the Sons of the Golden Future, I am no longer involved with the organization, nor have I been for some time now. Let me get this straight, Jacoby said. You are admitting to the creation of an organization of which its sole purpose is to spread white nationalist values and ideals. Valdes was gobsmacked. What the fuck is happening right now? On the television, Councilman White raised a cautionary hand. Yes, again, I contributed to the creation of the Sons, but no, it did not start out as a white nationalist movement. What did it start out as then? Quite simply, it was a place for troubled young men, a place for opportunity, community, an alternative to the slippery slope of gangs, crime, and violence, a place where boys would feel welcomed, no matter the background or struggle or lofty ideals, Councilman. But you can't be ignorant to the rhetoric the Sons of the Golden Future are using. This whole rally, this is straight up white supremacy, and it's akin to setting a match to a tinderbox. White nodded and folded his hands on the table, evoking a certain kind of solemnity for the cameras. You are absolutely correct, and that is why I wanted to do this interview. I thought my history with the Sons could remain unspoken, but recent events, you're referring to the string of murders targeting African Americans? Call them what they are. Lynchings. Violent. Abhorrent. Inexcusable lynchings, White said, getting appropriately worked up for the cameras. These people deserve justice, and justice demands clarity. As painful as it may be for my ego or my chances at re-election, clarity requires action. Fucker actually used the line. White turned to the camera and put on his best "Trust me, I'm one of you" face. Myself, the Saint Charles Police Department, and the city of Saint Charles itself do not condone or support the actions, stated or otherwise, of the Sons of the Golden Future. I personally denounce the organization and pledge to pursue unflinching justice for every act of aggression, violence, and civil disobedience committed by these thugs. The city of Saint Charles stands for law and order. Our streets will be kept safe, and justice against intolerance will prevail. You have my word. Oh my fuck, Valdes blurted, bouncing back to her feet. I muted the television again. How can he just sit there? Valdes. No, fuck that, Abe. Valdes started for the studio. I grabbed her arm to stop her. It's not worth it, kid. Get your fucking paws off me, you meathead. Valdes spat. I let go of her arm and took a step back. She stood there fuming, but at least she wasn't going for the door. Did you get paid? I asked. Valdes scrunched her face up. What? Jacoby, he pay you for the photos? Valdes waved it off. He always pays. The check will be cut on Friday. I nodded. Good. Just another job, then. She stabbed a finger at the television, where Jacoby continued to silently interview the councilman. That is not just another job, Abe. That, I said, nodding to the television, is not your problem. Abe, come on, Valdes scoffed. If people like us don't say something, assholes like that, another angry stab at the councilman, end up getting away with fucking murder. I grabbed my jacket off the back of the chair. What, you need me to cut you a fucking check before you start caring about this shit? Valdes asked, her voice straining and a cord in her neck standing out. I pulled the jacket on and felt something heavy in the pocket. I don't like fights I can't win, and right now, I pulled the heavy object out of the pocket. It was a set of brass knuckles. They were old and tarnished, scratched to hell and showing their age. I held the knuckles up to Valdes. "What the hell are these?" I asked. Valdes held my gaze for a half-second before looking down, her shoulders slumping. She sighed, and for once, I wished the pull would help me out. This kid was so twisted up, but I had no idea what was really going on inside her. "Forget it, it was a dumb idea," she said quietly. "Valdes." They belong to my abuelo." I blinked. "Who?" She snatched the brass knuckles from my hand, turning them around and tracing her fingertips over the finger holes. "My grandfather," she said. "These were his. He gave them to me before he died, and I—" She let out a long sigh, but didn't look up from the knuckles. I had nothing to say to fill the silence, so I waited. "He fought in World War II," Valdes finally said. "He didn't talk about it much, or I don't know, maybe I just never got a chance to hear, But I do know that he used these to fuck up his share of Nazis, the real ones." She hesitated and then rolled her eyes. I guess they're all fucking real one way or another, but yeah, my abuelo fucked up his share of Nazis back in the day, and now he's dead. And now Nazis call themselves the sons of the golden fucking future, and my boss won't confront the biggest fucking wannabe Hitler in the city, and all I've got are these goddamn fucking knuckles. Another moment passed, and Valdes lifted her head to look me in the eyes. "Look, I know I can't talk you out of going to the rally. I don't know if it's a fight you think you can win, or if it's just the money, or if Josephine's right, and this is your way of, I don't know, doing something." She kept turning the knuckles around in her hands. "I know you're gonna go, no matter how much I tell you it's the dumbest fucking thing you've done since traipsing around Dockside on a Friday night. But here." She stuck her hand out, offering the brass knuckles back to me. You should take these. I don't know what kind of voodoo exists in the world," Valdes mused, "but I know for sure you gotta have a little in you with that whole empathy thing. And your brother, he certainly seemed to have a little in him too." I took the knuckles back, but I was still confused. Without the pull telling me what she was feeling, this was just a weird, uncomfortable moment. What what I'm saying is, you know. Valdez stumbled over her words, and then nodded at the knuckles. I hefted them in my palm, appreciating the weight of the brass. "Maybe there's still a little hoodoo voodoo left over in these things," I suggested. Valdez nodded slowly. Yeah, maybe. I mean, they worked for Abuelo, right?" The brass knuckles felt cold and solid, and not at all filled with hoodoo voodoo or anything else for that matter. Maybe I did believe, or maybe it was just to give Valdes a little peace of mind, but I nodded, shrugged, and said, "You never know." I pocketed the knuckles, and Valdes nodded again. All right," she said. "All right." I turned for the door. It was getting late, and Beck and Miller would be waiting. The aches and pains from Malachi's beatdown were finally growing numb, and there were Nazis waiting to be punched. "Hey, Abe." I turned around in time to see Valdes throw her arms around me. I froze as she squeezed me in a hug, her face buried in my chest. It was weird. My arms hung stupidly at my sides, and I looked around the empty break room. Nope. No one was watching. And on the same note, no one was around to interrupt. This was the most physical interaction I'd ever had with Valdes, and, let's be honest, the most intimate I had been with anyone since Gertie. Very fucking weird. "Try not to get yourself killed, okay, you fucking lugnut?" I'm no wordsmith, and this was definitely not the moment I would rise to the occasion. I grunted. I was about to pull away when I felt something Odd. It was as strange as it was familiar. A distant piano wire fluttered in my chest. Valdes gripped me tighter, and the vibration twanged just a little bit louder. Motherfucker. The pull whispered softly to me, but I had never heard anything so clearly. It wasn't that Valdes was somehow immune to my psychic, emotional pull. We just had never been physically close enough for it to work. But I felt it now. It started somewhere in my gut, worked its way up my chest, and grabbed a hold of my heart in a warm, soft embrace. Valdes loved me. Not in any romantic, bodice-ripping, doe-eyed bullshit way, but a deep, respectful affection, the kind of love you have for someone you genuinely care about, someone you cherish, someone who would leave a hole in your life if they suddenly disappeared. I knew exactly how she felt. And it wasn't just because the pull sent those feelings directly to my head where Valdez's emotions became my own and pricked at my eyes. No, I knew how she felt because, somewhere along the line, I started feeling the same way about Valdes. She squeezed me again, and the vibration pulsed in my chest. Like the hug itself, I hadn't felt this kind of love since Gertie. All right, you fucking twerp. I wrapped my arms around Valdes and felt the piano wire sing out between us. Thanks, kid.